In this video we're going to see how compound interest works and how you can work out the amount of investment at the end of time or how much interest you will receive over time. In compound interest, it's when you get interest on your interest, and we'll see that how it works as we go through. In this example we're going to look at investing £2,000 at 3% over 4 years. In any compound interest question, you're always looking for an amount of money, an interest rate, and a period of time. So, at the start of year 1, we have £2,000. We now need to find what 3% of £2,000 is. And to do that, just do that on a separate bit of paper. To find 3% of that, I will do my amount divided by 100, which will give me what 1% is, and times by 3. So all the way through here, I'm going to be doing my amount divided by 100 times by my percentage number, and that percentage number will always be 3. And if you work out what that interest is, it comes out to be £60. So at the end of year 1, we will have 2,000 plus 60, £2,060. So if we have that at the end of year 1, that's how much we have at the beginning of year 2, because the end of year 1 and the beginning of year 2, well, it's the same point in time. Now in year 2, we'll have another 3% interest, but we're not working out 3% of the original £2,000, we're working out 3% of the £2,060. So the sum we'll do now is 2,060 divided by 100 times by 3. Again, the amount divided by 100 times by our percent number. And if you do that, you should find the interest has gone up. Your calculator should say 61.8, which is £61.80 in money. So we have more interest this time, because as well as having interest on the original £2,000, we're also having interest on this amount of interest up here. So if I add those two amounts together, I should get £2,121.80p. That's the money that we have in our investment now at the end of year 2. So it's also the amount we have at the beginning of year 3, because that's the same point in time. The interest we receive in year 3 will be 3% of this figure. So again, we should expect now a slightly bigger amount, maybe £62, £63, something like that. So we need to do the amount number divided by 100 times by 3. And if you do that on your calculator, you should find that it's £63.65p. So at the end of year 3, if we add these two amounts together, we should now be on £2,185.45p. Now sometimes you're going to get more than 2 decimal places in your answers, but because it's money, and we only have 2 decimal places for money, that's the pence part of the money, well, I'm always rounding it to the nearest penny. Finally, in year 4, at the beginning, we've got that amount of money over there, £2,185.45p. The interest we receive will be 3% of this. So the sum you now need to do is this amount here, divided by 100, times by 3. And if you do that, you should get £65.56. And if you add that on to what you had at the beginning of the year, you should get £2,251.01. So, at the end of the 4 years, our original £2,000 is now worth £2,251.01. The interest we've received is the difference between these two amounts. So the interest we have received over that 4-year period is £251.01. And you could also get that figure by adding up the 4 amounts of interest we had here. Now you see that has taken quite a long time to do. You will always get the answer that way, and if it's only 2 or 3 years, then it's a reasonable way of doing it. But just think if you'd been doing that question and it hadn't been 4 years, it had been 14 years. There had been 14 lines of working out in the question. It would have taken forever. Well, a long time anyway. Now there is a quick way of doing these. You're starting with £2,000. You're getting 3% interest each year. 3%. Percent, remember, is percent means per 100. So that's the same as 3/100ths. And as a decimal, 3/100ths is 0.3. And what you need to do is change your percentage into a decimal. And because we're increasing it, I won't have 0.03, but because I'm increasing each time, I need to have that after a 1. If I times it by 1, things will stay the same. If I times by 1.03, I'm adding 3% on. So the sum I've got now is my original amount of money times by 1.03, but I haven't yet done anything with my time. Now in the example we just did, it was 4 years, and that's a power we put on here. We put that power there. So I could just reach for a calculator and do that sum straight off into the calculator, which was 2,000 times by 1.03 to the power of 4. If I do that on the calculator, I get my answer 2251.02. So I'm going to write that down a minute. 2251.02. Now if we compare that answer with the answer we had before, it's a penny out, and it's a penny out because we had to round up here one of these numbers to the nearest penny, which brought a slight error, but only a very slight error into our calculation. The number we have down here from the calculator this time, there's been none of the rounding. But we got the answer very quickly. That is the value of our money at the end of the 4 years. So the interest we received altogether will be the difference between this amount of money and the £2,000 we had to start with. Now, if that question had been, we were investing £2,000 at 3% for 14 years, if I use this new method, all I have to do is the amount of money I have at the start. If I'm increasing by 3%, that's timesing by 1.03, and the 14 would go up there as a power. So the sum I have to do is 2,000, zoom in on this, 2,000 times by 1.03 to the power of 14. My calculator tells me that would be £3,025.18. And again, much quicker doing it that way than doing it from the big table, which would have 14 rows in it if I had done it the other way around. So the tricky bit here is just getting this decimal number correct here. If you were investing at 7%, the decimal number you would use would be 1.07. If you're investing at 12%, it would be 1.12. If you're investing at 3.5%, remember 3.5 is 3.5, that's a decimal, that would be 1.035. Remember, 1.03 was 3%, so 3.5%, 1.035. You can also use this method if you're decreasing. If you're doing it using the table we had at the beginning, then once you've found your percentage, you just take it off. So this number over here would have been £2,000, take away 60, and you just take it away each time. If you are decreasing and you're doing the quick method, say you had a car that started off worth £12,000 and it lost 5% of its value each year, and it had it for 3 years. You do your 12,000, but if you lose 5%, that means you only have 95% left, and you change that to a decimal, it's 0.95. You would put your power of 3 there, and you would do that sum, and you would get your answer.